Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Mother. We continue Book 4, the Book of Birth and Quest, Canto 3, the Call to the Quest. I can start. For somewhere?
Yes.
For somewhere on the longing breast of earth, thy unknown lover waits for thee, the unknown. Thy soul has strength and needs no other guide than one who burns within thy bosom's powers. There shall draw near to meet thy approaching steps the second self, for whom thy nature asks, he who shall walk until thy body's end, a close-bound traveler, pacing with thy pace, the lyrist of thy soul's most intimate chords, who shall give voice to what in thee is mute. Then shall you grow like vibrant, kindred harps, one in the beats of difference and delight, responsive in divine and equal strains, discovering new notes of the eternal theme.
Actually, this wonderful passage, as we see Sri Aurobindo several places, he reveals many layers of truth. Satyavan is the soul of man. So she'll eventually find Satyavan. But at the same time, he's also revealing to us the deep truth of togetherness, of
Oneness and unity.
Oneness of marriage. So we know that in Auroville, Mother had, when she was asked about marriage, she said nowhere she has spoken very kindly of marriage, to put it. At one place, she even says that in the new creation, all these many things which are much valued in the old are going to go away.
Yes.
And one of them she mentioned was ascetic rituals. And second thing she mentioned was, in asceticism, she also said, for example, people attach too much importance to purity of the body, getting up in the morning, early hours, and a lot of ego it develops. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and things like that. The second thing she spoke about, for example, things like sanctity of marriage. And so in Auroville, when she was asked, she said marriage is like, unless people really want it, it has no more need to exist. So obviously, it's a very subtle truth, because marriage is not needed can also mean equally that I live my life the way I want. Animals don't get married. So does it mean to live like animals? Though some animals can be extremely faithful to their partners. There are animals like that. So when the disciples asked her that this is too vast a truth, people would take it as a license to do anything and everything. So she gave a message. Now, unfortunately, that message has been titled as On Marriage. Actually, it was not given for marriage. But it's about two beings who come together, who are united in their body and sensations. Then she says, but it is not enough. Who are united in their common interest, but it is not enough. Who are united in their emotions, but it is not enough. Who are united in their thoughts and feelings, but it is not enough. So she says, all this is necessary and important. But she says, at the center of the being and at the apex, there is a fire. So when one is united in that is the secret of a lasting union. And then she brings another interesting aspect, because it's there in the lines, to walk together hand in hand at the same pace to the same goal. So this was the idea of, like everything here on earth is symbolic of something higher. So this was the idea of an ideal togetherness. Later on it became a social custom, then marriage, then degenerated into whatever we find it today. Kali Yuga has broken all the old patterns. That is the purpose of what we call as the dark age of Kali Yuga, because it breaks the old pattern. It has become redundant, outdated, even misused. Women, at least all over the world, in fact, were treated as subordinated slaves. They should live inside. They have no rights, voting right or any right. So the divine afflatus has broken all that, and we may use the word Kali Yuga, but that was necessary. But in its place, something new and more beautiful has to emerge. And that we find mentioned even in the ancient, deep ancient scriptures of India, as I was saying. The real marriage is based on love. There is no other basis of being together. She said, as long as people love, they can be together. And when there is no love, they can go apart. Now, this is very powerful for human consciousness to digest. But the basis of marriage is not a social custom, not a legal stamp paper, none of these. The basis of marriage is love. And it's not marriage then, but natural living together of people. Now he reveals also the secret, which
But
is...
Mother also says that if two people no longer love
each other, they can, yes, they have a right to go away. Because it's an age of truth. If there is no truth inside and you are hanging on to something which is false, artificial, worst of all for society, then you are doing a disservice to the truth which is evolving within us. Now, because this is an evolving truth. It's a constant discovery. Actually, marriage, or for that matter any relationship, friendship, is a discovery of an aspect of yourself through another. That's how he describes in his passage, one of the passages in Isavasya. And you'll see that all those people with whom we develop friendship are all like mirrors who reveal some aspect or the other of our own being with which we are unaware. But in marriage or a very close intimate relationship, it's sometimes the other self which will find this word. Complementary being. But obviously the condition, because lest people start speaking of soulmate, when Sri Aurobindo was asked this, so he said there is a condition to find your soulmate. What is the condition? You should be completely free from desire. It's as good as saying they are the tastiest fruit hanging on the tree, but the tree is beyond your reach. But this is the condition, and you see it in Tantra. In Tantra, people speak about the yogini and the yogi, but the condition is a complete absence of desire, including sexual desire. Now, this is not an easy condition for human consciousness to fulfill, but that is the secret.
And one thing Mother was doing in Oregon, we see it again and again. They wanted to make a zoo. Yeah. She said, absolutely not. This is the old world. They want to have animals. She said, no, you shouldn't have animals.
Yes.
Pets.
So many things of old world have gone away, and we can't revive them in that old form. Because what divine has broken, you can't fix it. Yes. It has to evolve into something new. So here we have these lines. Venture through the deep world to find thy mate. Now who is this mate? Sri Aurobindo is revealing to us. For somewhere on the longing breast of earth, thy unknown lover waits for thee, the unknown. Nobody knows. The mate may not have the same surname in the same city or the same country. It is unknown. Anywhere it could be. Thy soul has strength and needs no other guide than one who burns within thy bosom's spars. And this is what I had last time shared, the story of Nalnida. He was asked, how did you choose? He said, I went, I saw, I knew, and I got married. That was the end of the story. Then he came back. Because it is that which knows from deep within who is the one. Now, one more like footnotes one has to keep mentioning. The aim of yoga is not to find an ideal mate, but to find the divine and unite. No, because I keep, sometimes getting letters and people develop all kinds. Oh, there must be my mate. Sri Aurobindo has written in Savitri. If there is meant for you, you don't have to search like this. It will happen, it will come. It's not something which one has to. Effort has to be in the direction of uniting with the divine. And all else is given to us by the grace if needed for our growth. So, So then he describes, they shall draw near to meet thy approaching steps. The maid will draw near. And this is exactly what happens in Savitri's case. Through the wilderness, through forest, least expected. Not even a board that this is this village or this country, and she finds the partner. The second self for whom thy nature asks. So this is the deep psychological truth that all of us contain within us, the other self. The other self is not the shadow. So sometimes the mate can be not complementary, but a shadow. So opposite, not opposite, sorry, but my defects and weaknesses. So it's not about that, but the other self. So somebody who has strengths of one kind may have need for other kinds of strengths which are hidden inside. And here is a person who brings that, like strength of speech. And here he gives that example actually, and the strength of silence. They are not opposites, but they are complementaries. So somebody who has a strength of speech may find someone who has the strength of silence, and it complements each other. So there are many such examples. A close bound, the second self for whom thy nature asks, he who shall walk until thy body's end. A close bound traveler pacing with thy pace. So here we have the same pace to the same goal. The person will walk together. And mind you, this is nothing to do with outer events and circumstances. We should completely ignore, that is not the issue. It is something far more deeper and profound that is being revealed to us.
Interesting, thy body's end.
Yes, thy body's end. Yes. A close bound traveler pacing with thy pace, the lyrist of thy soul's most intimate chords. He or she will know what no one else knows, because the person is so intimate chords. The deepest aspiration, that is what is most intimate to human beings. That the person will know. Who shall give voice to what in thee is mute? So it's like the expression, each is an expression of the other person. Perfect example in modern times is Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So in ancient times we have these examples. Radha and Krishna. They never got married, but they are perfect partners. Radha withdrawn in herself, with that love in her heart. Krishna born with sweetness, but for a terrible task. The task of destroying an entire humanity during a stage of evolution. Whereas Radha is Krishna revealing that wonderful love which is in his heart of sweetness and delight. That is Radha. But Sri Krishna in his life upon earth, incidentally, barring that little sojourn with gopis and gopis, he doesn't reveal that. He comes always as wisdom and power incarnate. I mean, who could? But we know it is there. But where is it? In Radha it is manifest. It expresses itself. So, one, then shall you grow like vibrant kindred harps. So it's not sameness. Kindred harps, like tabla and sitar. But if only tabla plays, not allowing the sitar to have its say, then it is a mono thing. So tabla and sitar having a jugalbandi. So that is a perfect tuning. They enrich each other. Here the sense is that kindred harps, they enrich each other. Don't diminish each other. So there are asuric relationships where one person eats away the energies of other, diminishes, even destroys. Even Sri Aurobindo said, if you get in touch with such a person and live with someone, your life is shortened because the person eats away your energies. On the other hand, there is the other type, kindred harps. One in the beats of difference and delight. There will be difference. It's not like whatever I say, you must listen, therefore you are my kindred soul. Just the other way, right? The difference is something to be celebrated. Nature celebrates it. So when it is said one in sensation, it's not that we have the same affinity and same taste. It simply means that you have a sense of beauty, but for somebody it may be an eye for physical things. For someone else it's an eye for psychological things. Both have a sense of beauty. So they complement each other coming together. So one in the beats of difference and delight, responsive in divine and equal strains, neither is superior or inferior. Both are equal in their innate divinity, discovering new notes of the eternal theme. So their life becomes expressive of a new creative joy and wonder of the divine. It's a very beautiful.
I'd like to share with you how Sri Aurobindo gives us a series of extraordinary lines in which a word has to do with music.
Yeah.
So we have here
Harps.
the lyrist of thy soul's most intimate chords. Wow. So we have lyrist and we have chords. Give voice to what in thee is mute. Vibrant kindred harps, divine and equal strains, the eternal theme. Everything is musical.
Musical. So that's what a perfect relationship is, where there is difference, but this difference is multiplying the delight. See, you hear solo music, but you have another instrument which is very different. Like as I said, percussion instrument vis-a-vis instrument which you use like flute. But they add up to the joy, though they are very different in everything. So this is the whole revelation here. One force shall be your mover and your guide. One light shall be around you and within. Hand in strong hand confront heaven's question, life. Hand in strong hand. Not weak, dependent, nothing. Each is strong, complete. And yet, you see, again, the ideal in our in Indian tradition is Shiva and Parvati. Hand in strong hand. Parvati doesn't need Shiva for. She's not dependent or weak. She is capable of creating and destroying a whole universe. Shiva doesn't need Parvati equally. He is capable of living in Kailash for eternity without any of his needs being looked after. And yet when they come together, it's an energy out of which Kartikeya is born. Kartikeya is the divine energy that works in the world and helps it to evolve and conquer every obstacle. So Kartikeya is born out of the two coming together. Kartikeya is basically the psychic being, but on the world level. That fire, Vaishwanar. So it's very interesting that their coming together is not for any mutual satisfaction or desires or dependency, but something very strong. Challenge the ordeal of the immense disguise. This world is a disguise. Life is a disguise. Who is hiding behind? The divine. So they take the challenge together. Ascend from nature to divinity's heights. Face the high gods, crowned with felicity. Then meet a greater God, thyself beyond time. So they come together, they journey together to discover the one self who inhabits all beings. So this too can be a path. That's how the whole idea of sati and sata, not sata quite. But whatever its male counterpart, probably men are not capable of loving anyone with so much depth and intensity and loyalty. But this is the whole idea of together they journeyed, and you see all the rishis ashramas is very interesting. While Vasishtha gave all the initiate, and he is regarded as a Brahma Rishi, but the entire management of the ashram was done by Arundhati. Very few have even heard the name of Arundhati. But who is Arundhati? She is regarded as a sati who could, by a word, even change the decree of destiny which has been planned by the gods. But she is not known. Vasishtha is known as a Brahma Rishi. She didn't care to be called as a Brahma Rishi. Here also you see mother and Sri Aurobindo. And what does the mother say? Looking at the samadhi. Let them worship thee to their heart's content. But as for me, I just want to work and serve thee. What a work and service. She is the ultimate master of yoga. So this is the idea, that all who will give voice to what in these mute. Again you see, when Sri Aurobindo writes Savitri, the mother says, all my experiences are there. And the interesting part is, I would have something at night and next day morning he will pen it down.
And he would show her.
And he would show her. All that was in her has been that Sri Aurobindo would voice. So if you see, in one sense, Sri Aurobindo is difficult, but just by turning to mother, one will understand everything that Sri Aurobindo has written. Because what he has written is what in the heart of the Shakti. And what she has done, she has expressed all that is there in the heart of Sri Aurobindo. That is the perfect state. And mind you, they never except once, Champaklalji records, shared a meal together. That's not necessary. And they didn't stay together. Sri Aurobindo had his own room and the mother had her own space. But the interesting part is, look how the Leela of the divine and his Shakti, it is amazing, it's so touching. It sometimes, to an unchaste mind can be mind-boggling. So at night, before Sri Aurobindo would retire into the inner worlds, what we would ignorantly call as sleep, Sri Aurobindo would ask Champaklal, has the mother come? Has the mother come? Sometimes after 10 minutes. Because he was living in eternity. Now you see, somebody would think, oh, he's getting anxious. No. Because Sri Aurobindo is living in a different time-space continuum. So 10 minutes for him, maybe a whole century has passed. So he would again ask, has the mother come? So after the mother has come, then he would retire. Now why? Because he was all the time busy protecting her. Because she is in the front, the Shakti is in front. So one day there is a very interesting incident that Champaklalji records. It's 11 or perhaps 11:30. There in Champaklal speaks. And so he says, no, mother has not yet, she's there but she has not yet gone to her room to retire. She has come but not gone into her room to retire. So Sri Aurobindo says, he said, there is X and she is still conversing with him. So Sri Aurobindo says, so late? And then he says, I suppose I can retire now. And then and Champaklalji says, yes, of course. Now this is a Leela of the divine and his Shakti. All the time he is behind her, and that's why in 1938, 23rd November, when he had a fracture, he said, all the time, because the hostiles were attacking, Second World War, all these things.
He was protecting her.
I was protecting her. I never imagined that they will have the audacity to attack me.
Yes.
He explains that, because Shakti is in the forefront. So if you see their Leela, but so wonderful. Sri Aurobindo like a child sitting and the mother is coming and combing his hairs and he is sitting like a little baby. When somebody would offer flowers to mother, she would carry all of them and offer it at Sri Aurobindo's feet. Sri Aurobindo's word was for her final. And if mother decided something, Sri Aurobindo, for him it was final. If mother had said something and the disciple came and wanted him to change, if mother has said, this is final. That is the kind of perfect harmony and even her whole life. See, reminiscences that if I continue to be here, it is because she has to serve him, do his work, which is enlightening mankind in the service of truth and love. That's what she says. So beautiful. And even touching small instances. Look at the deep intensity of love, which doesn't get expressed on the surface. Mother says she didn't... if once Sri Aurobindo would have said, you stay, I would have stayed. 1915. She left just the next day after her birthday, 22nd February. And you read those prayers after that, solitude, harsh solitude she experienced because she left a psychic being here. But Sri Aurobindo kept his Himalayan silence. But not even once she asks him, can I stay? Shall I stay? Look at the perfection of surrender. If once he would have said, she would have stayed. And then once when Huta asked her to come to Auroville and live there, she said she's very happy Matri Mandir is being built and everything. But she said, as for me, I stay here. And then she, after a pause, says, because the Samadhi is here.
Yes.
She won't go away. Wherever there is Sri Aurobindo, there is mother. Wherever there is mother, there is Sri Aurobindo. That's why it is said, when you see no difference between Sri Aurobindo and me, when to turn to one is to turn to both, then you should know that you are opening to the supramental force. That is the sign. As long as you see the difference, it is separate, even if it may be a small difference. I remember in Delhi once bowing to, it's my nature now, just bowing to mother and beginning to speak. Or if both I could, then, in the middle. But anyway, so someone told me after the talk, you speak very well, but I noticed you are not giving respect to Sri Aurobindo. I said, itna bada iljam laga diya. I said, why sir, why do you feel so? No, I saw you bowed to mother. You did not bow to Sri Aurobindo. I said, because bowing to her is to bow to the Jagdishwar. Lord is there in her heart. Who am I, a tiny little creature, to even think of not respecting Sri Aurobindo who dwells in every heart? So he didn't understand because he didn't have an opening to mother. But that's a different story altogether. Sri Aurobindo has said, all who are turned to mother are doing my yoga. So it's not needed. So that is the kind of oneness. So because it's connected, no? Savitri Satyavan story, someone asked who is Satyavan, mother said he is the Supreme Lord. Yes. Ashapati is Lord and he is also Lord. So this is the beauty, but that let the time come to reveal that truth. So she has to go and look at the father's words. He is asking his daughter, go and find a mate. What are the criteria?
Yes.
He's not saying, look at, how handsome he looks. Don't see his pay package. See what job he is doing. You are a foolish girl, naive girl, innocent girl. Anybody can fool you. No, you have the soul strength. You don't need any other guy. Don't bother about the surname. Don't bother about nationality. Just see from the eye of your soul and you will find. This is the words of the seer father. Nothing else he is telling her. This is ancient Indian culture. I keep saying that because it's now so much into, externalities. So, and now comes something very marvelous. Maybe you should, very powerful. Now this is Ashapati's words, spoken in a moment impromptu, as if his speech has been taken over by a higher force and he has spoken. That's how it had started.
This word was seed of all the thing to be. A hand from some greatness opened her heart's locked doors, and showed the work for which her strength was born. As when the mantra sinks in yoga's ear, its message enters, stirring the blind brain, and keeps in the dim, ignorant cells its sound. The hearer understands a form of words, and musing on the index thought it holds, he strives to read it with the laboring mind, but finds bright hints, not the embodied truth. Then, falling silent in himself to know, he meets the deeper listening of his soul. The word repeats itself in rhythmic strains. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the body's self are seized unutterably, and he endures an ecstasy and an immortal change. He feels a wideness and becomes a power. All knowledge rushes on him like a sea. Transmuted by the white spiritual ray, he walks in naked heavens of joy and calm, sees the God face, and hears transcendent speech. An equal greatness in her life was sown.
Very powerful, very beautiful. And the best part is, it starts with, this word was seed of all the thing to be.
Yes.
What is going to come? This is the seed of destiny that has been sown into her life in a moment of deep and high inspiration. Ashapati has sown a seed that you go and find. I am not going to find. Your soul has to find and discover who is this other self. A hand from some greatness opened her heart's locked doors and showed the work for which her strength was born. And she has understood what it means. It's not about, oh, I have to go and get married. This is not the understanding of this passage. The one with whom she has to work out the great work for which she is born. So when mother was asked about, why she came and her mission, she says that she used to see, and when she came here, when she saw Sri Aurobindo, she knew he is the one. And I knew that my work is here. That's why I am here. End of the story. So this is how one, finds and discovers.
She had formed so many groups.
Yeah,
in
so
Paris.
many groups.
She had salons and all of these marvelous things, and she left it all.
All behind. This is where my work lies. And now you see, this is very interesting. Sri Aurobindo is comparing this whole speech of Ashwapati to a mantra.
Yes.
We have this idea still, in spite of reading all that Sri Aurobindo has said on the mantra, that mantra is some fixed forms of Sanskrit words found only in the written text of the Vedas and Upanishads and the Gita. Yes, they are mantra, but mantra is not limited to that. And if we just do it mechanically, they lose much of their mantric energy. When Shri Krishna was speaking, everything of his is mantra, but he was not saying, oh, now I am going to say a mantra. What kind of mantra? See, Gita is mantra. Nobody will deny that. What does Shri Krishna say in the beginning to Arjuna? You are talking like a fool. You are being weak. These are these words literally. But it's a mantra. Why? Because when you receive those words, it awakens you to light. So mantra is not just some standard formula, fixed formulas of words whose, written in Sanskrit. Mantra can be in any language. It's a inspired speech. And Sri Aurobindo says the Vedas are sacred not because, they are written or in a sacred book, but because the soul of the seer saw it. When we live an experience and we speak, it's a mantra. That's what, we see in a couplet of Kabir. He says, what is Tirath? The holy place. Wherever I step. Kabir is saying, wherever you step, that is Tirath. Yes, because I am invoking the divine. What is Vedas? He says, what I speak is Veda.
One of the great seers said, walk as if your feet were kissing the earth.
Yes. So, he says that whatever I speak is Veda. Because he is seeing a truth and speaking. And that's why many of these words are like a Veda. If you read Guru Bani, it's taken up from various saints and seers. But if you ask a very traditional Hindu, he will say only Vedas, Upanishads and Gita are mantra. He will cut off much of that Kabir and Guru Nanak. All this is Veda. All this is, mantra and many others. Even it can take the form, it can express itself through lips of ordinary humanity. Like just now you said, walk as if your feet were kissing the earth. It's a very powerful and evocative, inspired speech. So, and of course he speaks about the criteria of the mantra, or things which should be there in the mantra. We'll talk of that some other time. But here he says the action of the mantra. As when the mantra sings in yoga's ear, not yogi's ear. So wonderful it is. Yoga's ear, when you are in a state of inner communion with the divine. Not when I am learning in a classroom about Sanskrit alphabets, this means this. That is not a state of yoga. That is a state of intellectual study. But the same mantra, sometimes comes within spontaneously. I remember once in Nainital, Chota Narayanji, he used to love, you say, Dr. Chalo, and we loved each other's company, and alone, nobody else. Except when we went to market where he loved to have jalebis and kachoris, but that's different. And all through he will tell wonderful stories, and one day he's got into the mode of mantras. And he remembered almost, I think, practically all the Upanishads. So and the Gita. So he started, reciting mantras and all through, and I said, oh, this one is my favorite, this I enjoy. But he is master in Sanskrit, so I could not. So when I reached upstairs, I was so full of joy, ecstasy. And a lot of people had gathered by, oh, Chota Narayan ji has come, and so I said, I had a delight of a time. Then I said, what lovely things, Chote Narayanji, why don't you share it with everyone? He said, tape recorder hai kya ki dawan hai? He was very blunt. He said, no, it doesn't come like that. He said, it came spontaneously with you, but it won't come just like that. It was in a soul moment. And that's what is meant by as when a mantra sings in yoga's ear. I have heard now several times, even nowadays there are recorded mantras. They don't evoke that state in you. Yoga's ear. You are in a state of communion with the divine. That is the condition to unlock the mantra. And not a formal knowledge of Sanskrit. As when the mantra sings in yoga's ear, its message enters stirring the blind brain. In fact, formal knowledge may sometimes be a hindrance. You don't understand what does it mean. It is something which is, touching the brain and stimulating some sense. And keeps in the dim, ignorant cells its sound. More than the word, it's the sound. It acts and acts and acts. The hearer understands a form of words. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, a form of words. Oh, divine is in all beings. It's a form of words. But one day it discloses the meaning. And all is filled by the beloved. Every scene. And musing on the index thought it holds, he strives to read it with the laboring mind. This is the method of doing yoga through the Upanishads and the Gita and the Vedas and Savitri. That we read it and read it and read it, and the index word we muse upon it. Nowhere it says, and you open a dictionary and see. That's all right. You may need to some difficult words, but when you're reading, read. Joy of reading. Then what will happen is, the hearer understands a form of words and musing on the index thought it holds. He strives to read it with the laboring mind, but finds bright hints, not the embodied truth. The last secret of the mantra is not revealed. Bright hints. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Oh, that means God is everybody. Mind you, not just God. Isha. The Master, the Lord. Look now, the word has a different sense. Isha, from which comes Aishwaryam. Not just the Lord, the all-powerful divinity. Now look, the same word. Otherwise you can say God is in all beings. Isha, the word is so powerful. Isha Vasyam, he has wrapped the world around him. Very different sense that then he is in Isha Vasyam. It is meant for it's a dress he is wearing. This universe is the outer body of the Lord. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Here and everywhere. Now, when we muse upon it, the word meaning will be same. But the sense it can bring and many more shades. I remember this mantra, its sense of Isha Upanishad was, I can share it, disclosed when I was sitting in a Air Force mess. I remember the time, 7 o'clock in Delhi, sitting outside the bar. I was not drinking, for God's sake, but I had picked up my, whatever, some drink, some soft drink. No, I have nothing against, a cup of wine. But while drinking, there was all aloneness, and suddenly this mantra, the Isha Upanishad, started revealing. Then I realized that this is how revelation comes. It has nothing to do with, I knew the verses, but what it senses, then so many layers of meaning. So the mantra reveals itself like this. Then, falling silent in himself to know, he meets the deeper listening of his soul. Mantra has sprung from the soul, it can be understood only by the soul. Savitri is a revelation from the heights, the laboring mind cannot understand it. It can only have hints.
Exactly.
It is only the deeper listening of the soul in the quietude that its sense can spring up.
And that mind, how can it be capable of understanding something that was written far above the mind?
Yes, absolutely. Logical impossibility.
Impossible.
But when the mind is quiet, then its meaning reveals itself. Obviously, may not be immediately. It may take time, but that is the way. The word repeats itself in rhythmic strains. We have seen sometimes, this mantra repeating itself in rhythmic strains. And then the rhythm is caught. See, sometimes people try to, even reading Savitri, imitate a rhythm. Oh, somebody is read like, no, it will come from within. And if at all one wants to, then mother's reading is there. This, of course, is unparalleled. But it comes, the rhythm comes from within. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the body's self are seized unutterably, and he endures an ecstasy and an immortal change. So, what is the power of the mantra? It's not that immediately you get the meaning. Ecstasy. Someone said very beautifully, I forget whom he asked, but one of the sadhaks in the ashram was asked by someone, "Oh, I am reading Sri Aurobindo, but I don't understand much." So he asked, "Do you get joy?" He said, "Yes, I get joy." He said, "Bas, what else you want?" It's the ecstasy and a change. So everything, the very senses can be seized. The very body self feels an ecstasy and an immortal change. He feels a wideness and becomes a power. Not just he feels power. Because mantra energizes the system. It fills it with the power that is inherent in the mantra. So there is the sun of power, there is the sun of wisdom, there is the sun of beauty, all these different fivefold suns, sun of delight, which are there in a mantra. So he feels a wideness. It liberates us. A mantra will never put us into a narrow. If something is making us very small and narrow and dogmatic, that means we have not got the mantra. It is liberating, so wideness. And becomes a power. Then what happens? All knowledge rushes on him like a sea. It's a downpouring like the Vedic rishis, the 7 rivers and the Sindhu, ocean from above rushes. And it's so difficult because it is rushing and you are bathing in that. So rushes on him like a sea. Then he doesn't have to try to labor with the mind. Oh, what does it mean? Let me try the scholarly ways. There is no scholarly wisdom. There is no wisdom. Things can be either scholarly or wisdom. They can't be two. There is nothing like a scholarly wisdom. That's the difference between a pandit and a yogi. A pandit is all scholarly wisdom, whatever it is called. But there is a wisdom that comes rushing on him like a sea, transmuted by the white spiritual ray. This white spiritual ray is the light of Maheshwari, who carries all knowledge. Mother speaks of it. She was born with it. He walks in naked heavens of joy and calm. It brings joy, it brings calm. That's what reading of Savitri does. Sees the God face and hears transcendent speech. Because he has access to domains of knowledge that are otherwise concealed to our mind. And finally, an equal greatness in her life was sown by the power of this mantra. It's a very powerful passage.